Good morning. As I'm sure you are all aware, today is Father's Day, and in honor of all the fathers out there, I wanted to read a letter I wrote my dad when I was about 4 years old at the pre-K program here at Orchard Park Presbyterian Church. So, this is My Dad by Micheal Young, about 11 years ago. My dad works for God. He's Richard Dick Young. That's pretty much his name. He preaches at this church. He usually wears normal clothes, except on Sundays. He wears an all-black shirt that almost goes down his whole body with a microphone clipped on. He can serve this bread with some kind of sour juice that we dip it in. He's the best at priesting. He has a kind of round head. He has blue eyes. He has a couple of whiskers. Sometimes he shaves them off. He has a kind of big mouth and a parent-sized nose. When he gets home, he takes off his dark golden coat with 10 buttons. He grabs a bit of lunch and reads the paper while he's having lunch. We mostly eat at home. My mom cooks and my dad helps my mom serve dinner. When we went to the back out, we all had some ribs. The back out was my childhood name for Outback. Me and my dad pretty much play with each other. He tosses me around. Inside we wrestle. It's really fun. It makes me think he loves me more than he actually does. Happy Father's Day, Dad. So, something that I have actually found pretty interesting after reading through the scripture that we just heard a few times is that when it's read in the original Greek, it's actually a lot different than you would first expect hearing it in the English translation. Now, when you look at it through the lens of 16th century theologians, it takes on even a more different lens. And when you hear it in the Aramaic, it's very, very interesting when we compare it to the modern view of it. I don't mean to scare you all. I don't want to sound like my dad too much, and I'm up here, not him, so don't worry about that. That distinction that I'm up here preaching and not my father is a fairly significant one that I would say. I am 18 years old, fresh out of high school. I have no religious leadership training. I haven't even taken a public speaking course in high school. So my preparedness for this seems very inadequate compared to the years that he and other pastors have spent preparing for their careers as religious leaders. Now, the thing that I can draw a parallel between myself and the 12 disciples is that we both seem vastly underprepared for the jobs we've taken on. At least seven out of the 12 of them were fishermen before they began following Jesus. Matthew was a form of shady tax collector who just preyed on travelers. And Simon, he was a zealot, is what they referred to him as. He was a political revolutionist who then turned his attention to religious dealings. So when Jesus says, heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons, freely you have received, freely give, I have to imagine that they were thinking something along the same lines that I was of, who put me in charge of this? I don't know about you, but if I was asked to raise the dead and drive out demons, I wouldn't know where to start or what my first move would be. With their similar preparedness to mine for preaching, I have to imagine that they were very nervous about it. And that they were asking themselves, why are we the ones chosen to do this work? Why are we the ones called upon to perform these miracles that it seems that only Jesus can do? That call to service from Jesus is something that I think we can all identify with, feeling unprepared for the jobs that are asked of us. When the 12 disciples were asked to perform these miracles, they went out and they did their best, but I'm not certain on the paths that they all took in performing those. I'm sure it led them to all different places doing the things that they thought best. And the call to serve for them was different for each individual, but for none of them do I think it was easy. I think the call to service for all of us is very difficult and never easy or convenient. And I think that's part of the struggle with the call to serve. The last trip that I went on, it was a mission trip down to Louisiana, Baton Rouge, and there we were helping repair flood damage that happened back in last August. And the damage there was immense, and it was something that you just didn't think about happening. When a flood rises and 4 feet of water come in, you got to rebuild every house that had 4 feet of water in it. There's a man, Alex Bayou, who has taken up a leadership position in the churches down there. I'm forgetting specifically I think it was First Church of Baton Rouge. And he was actually a professional baseball player. I believe he was on the Diamondbacks. And after his professional baseball career ended, he came back, and instead of finding something else to do in the baseball field, he decided to take on that leadership position in that church. And he's dedicated currently his life to bettering the community there. Now, the call to serve is not always as severe or dedicated as Alex Bayou has taken it. His entire focus of his life right now is on rebuilding that community. But the thing for him is, it wasn't easy either, but he still did it. He was in a position where he could respond to that call to service. And his working with him and helping him fulfilling the jobs that he set out for us. He was the organizer. He let us know what houses needed rebuilt. He let us know where we could get supplies. Working with him was really, really inspiring, that someone could dedicate that much time and effort of their life for a man under his 30s, for him to realize what's needed and that he can respond to that call to need. For me, the time commitment of going to Louisiana, it was a week-long trip, and it was right 2 weeks before midterms hit for me. And for a high schooler, that wasn't a great time to do it. But for the adults that we went with, the ones who had to take off work, who have kids, who have much more complicated schedules than I do, the complication of going on that trip was far greater for them. But I don't think any of them have any regrets at all about going. I think every single one of them was incredibly happy with the decision they made to go on this trip to help that community and to experience what it is to serve in that way. When presented with an opportunity like one going to Baton Rouge or the annual work camp trip that the high schoolers are offered in College Advisors, and that is a big part of the youth community here at church, I think it's everyone's duty who has the ability to serve to have an opportunistic approach to service, where any time it is offered, it is our duty to seize it and to make the most out of that. Because for us who have the ability to serve versus the people who need our help, if we don't serve, then who will? Thank you.